You were sitting at a kitchen table at 11:30 on a Sunday night. You did everything you were supposed to do. You went to school. You got the job. You paid your bills. So why does adulthood feel like a game where someone secretly moved the goalposts? The story didn't start with your late-night scrolling. It started 30 years ago. You were raised during the peak of the self-esteem movement. The message was clear and repeated daily. Your potential was infinite. Your future was guaranteed. And then, right as you stepped out into the real world, the ground collapsed. You graduated directly into a historic financial meltdown and a job market that treated you like spare parts. This created a massive mental collision inside your brain. Your brain was wired to expect a smooth escalator, but life handed you a broken treadmill. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the painful clash between what you were promised and what you actually got. But the trap went deeper than just money. Without realizing it, your self-worth became tied to your output. When the economy failed to reward your hard work, your brain didn't blame the system. It registered the setback as a deep, personal failure. At the exact same time, you became the first generation forced to build a public identity before you even knew who you were in private. You built profiles online before your own personality was fully formed. You learned to curate a polished highlight reel while hiding your internal confusion behind a screen. This created what psychologists call suspended adulthood. Traditional milestones like buying a home or starting a family felt increasingly out of reach. You began living with a chronic, quiet feeling. A feeling that you were perpetually sitting in the waiting room of your actual life. How do you build a future when the present keeps shifting? Older generations looked at your generation and saw job hoppers who lacked loyalty. But your behavior wasn't laziness. It was pattern recognition. You watched loyal employees get laid off overnight after decades of service. You realized the old social contract, hard work in exchange for lifelong security, was broken. So your brain adapted, treating every job, contract, and promise as strictly temporary. Next came the performance of daily existence. You learned to broadcast a curated, peaceful aesthetic to the world. But behind the perfectly lit photos lay a deep, corrosive feeling of isolation. Psychologists call this performative loneliness, feeling utterly disconnected while surrounded by thousands of followers. Why does endless digital noise leave you feeling so quiet? The real damage, however, wasn't psychological. It was physiological. You lived through back-to-back economic crises, housing bubbles, and a global pandemic. This constant barrage created a high allostatic load, the physiological wear and tear of chronic stress. Over time, your body forced a safety mechanism, shifting your nervous system into a low-grade shutdown. It manifests as a persistent fatigue that 8 hours of sleep never seems to fix. You also carry the burden of being history's most informed eyewitness. You are hyper-aware of every global crisis, yet feel entirely powerless to alter institutional machinery. This breeds an existential dread, a feeling that you are somehow personally responsible for systemic problems. But here is what the statistics miss. This pressure didn't break you. It forged something else. Psychologists call it post-adversarial growth, the measurable increase in resilience that comes from navigating sustained difficulty. You became the first generation to dismantle the ancient stigma around mental health. You learned to speak the language of boundaries, therapy, and self-awareness before a total collapse occurs. You built the most diverse, empathetic, and culturally fluid communities in human history. As the true bridge between the analog and digital worlds, your agility in navigating change is unmatched. You are actively rewriting what success actually means, shifting away from empty status symbols and toward genuine peace. So if you feel exhausted, remember, your fatigue isn't a character flaw. It's a rational response to an irrational era. Back at your kitchen table at 11:30 p.m. on Sunday night, you can finally close the laptop, take a deep breath, and realize you were doing just fine all along. Thanks for watching. If this gave you a little more insight into yourself, hit subscribe. There is plenty more to explore.